Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pokemon News. Today, we're going to be going over the Pokeball outbreak that's going to be happening in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Pokemon Day, which is coming up in just 5 days from now. So we're going to speculate a little bit about what's going to happen on Pokemon Day and that Pokemon presents, and what kind of information we're going to be given about the future of Pokemon. Yes, this is all speculation. I don't actually know what's going to happen. But I like to think about it a lot, and so I figured I'd share my thoughts with all of you. Let's get started with that Pokeball outbreak, though. The next outbreak event in Scarlet and Violet is going to begin on the 23rd of February, and it is going to go until Pokemon Day. The Pokemon that look like Pokeballs will be appearing in this outbreak around Paldea, and they are going to have a higher shiny rate, so you can catch shiny Voltorb and shiny Fungus. A third mystery Pokemon was announced, and it did say that it looks like a Pokeball in the announcement. So we know that a third Pokeball-esque Pokemon is going to be in this event. They also said that it is not normally found in Paldea. My guess is that this will be Hisuian Voltorb or possibly a Brute Bonnet outbreak in regular Paldea. Not really sure what it's going to be, but excited to find out. Now we're going to move into the speculation portion of the video. So if you're not interested in hearing my thoughts about what's going to happen on Pokemon Day, all the power to you. You can click away, I understand. If not, stick around. I'm going to try to cover as many of the Pokemon games and properties as possible in this speculation video. So if there's a game that you want to hear about, well, you'll hear about it. Let's get started. Okay, first of all, like I said, Pokemon Day is February 27th. This is the day that the games were originally released, and it's going to feature Pokemon Presents, which is going to, of course, showcase the direction for Pokemon for this coming year. There is a lot of hype about what's going to be talked about in this Pokemon Presents, and based on the mainline game release cycle, we should be getting our third Gen 9 game announcement, which would come out in and around the holidays this year. So let's talk about what the possibilities are for this next mainline game. First of all, based on the general release pattern of the Pokemon games, it is likely that Black and White is going to be receiving a remake of some sort this year. Now, there's lots of different ways that the Pokemon Company could do this because of the way Gen 5 was released. There was Black and White and then Black and White 2. So there's lots of different ways that they could remake these games. They could just re-release Black and White in the new Switch version. They could re-release Black 2 and White 2 in a similar way. So they could release technically 4 games in November. And so that, money, woo! There's also some more unique ways they could handle this. They could make a gray 1 and a gray 2. So kind of combine elements of both games and make them both available in these new versions. They could make a Black and White 3 that expands upon the story and takes place after Black 2 and White 2 happened. Lots of cool new ways that they could really remake Black and White. The other possibility with Gen 5 is the possibility of creating a Legends game based in the Unova region. They could make a Legends Keldeo or a Legends Kyurem, since they have several different Legends options for this. Although I feel like Keldeo would probably be a little bit more reasonable because Kyurem did get the Black 2, White 2 treatment. So it would make more sense that they would make like a Legends Keldeo game. This game would take place potentially in a different time period than Legends Arceus did. Arceus, of course, being back when Pokeballs were first invented. They could instead do this game in the future, right? Because Scarlet and Violet was all about the past versus the future, and Arceus was the past. So then the Keldeo game could be the future. They could also do a different past time period. So they could do like an early 1900s time period, because like early 1900s America is really cool. It's like still mostly rural, but there's some urban elements to it, and like technology is changing and all that. That would be kind of a cool time to explore. Lots of interesting ways they could do with this, especially since Unova is based off New York City. So they could do lots of fun things with the time that they choose to do if they make a Legends Unova game. Now, the other idea that has really been thrown out there on the internet is that there's going to be a Johto remake instead of a Gen 5 remake. This is mainly based on the fact that the legendary beasts were included in Scarlet Violet as Paradox Pokemon, so they're saying, hey, they're pointing at there potentially being a Gen 2 remake of some sort. There's two possibilities here. They could really double down on Johto and remake Heart Gold and Soul Silver in the Switch, update the graphics, make it really beautiful. It could be a really cool thing they would do. I would personally would love that. I love Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I think it's a great game. This would be a really fun way to do it. They could introduce the Dunsparce and some of the other new Pokemon like Farigiraf into the game. Be really fun. It would be really fun. I think that'd be a cool game idea. Alternatively, I could see them doing the Gen 5 stuff and then also releasing a Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Meryl, like a Let's Go Johto game alongside it. The Let's Go games are definitely not as intense as the other games that they make. And so if they did make a Let's Go Johto, I feel like it would be released alongside a more traditional mainline game, um, like a Black and White remake. Of course, they could also make a Legends game in the Johto region, based around like Celebi, um, and it would be very easy to do this, obviously, because Celebi is very much related to time travel as well. So you could go back into the past of the Johto region. There's already fan versions of this kind of game being made in the fan verse. There's this really cool trailer that came out that someone made that has some really cool stuff in it. Like there's obviously there's a lot of fan hype about there being a Legend Celebi game. Don't know if that's actually going to happen though. Let's move on from the mainline games and talk about the other Pokemon games that are out and about in the real world. First one being Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go's current season, Timeless Travels, which featured the Hisuian Pokemon, ends in March, so right after Pokemon Day. So likely the new season is going to be announced um, during this presents. There are lots of unreleased Pokemon in Pokemon Go from Gen 5 through 8, as well as Gen 9. They only introduced the starters and a couple other Pokemon when they did introduce them. So there's lots of different ways that this could go. They could move towards Unova to kind of coincide with potentially a new Gen 5 game. They could release more Paldean Pokemon. Lots of different options moving forward for Pokemon Go. I'm assuming we're going to get some sort of presentation on the Pokemon trading card game. The next set releases in March, soon after the Pokemon Day presents. And this will be the first set with the A-Spec cards, which they teased at the end of last year. We're probably going to get maybe a more in-depth video about these new cards, although the concept's not new, but the new ones that they're releasing. Some of them have already been released in Japan, but they're not released in the other markets yet. There's a possibility we might also get another TCG Classic product. The Classic set with the original Pokemon cards in it was very popular. There's a possibility they'll do another one with like the Johto stuff. Pokemon Unite is going to be introducing Miraidon into the game on Pokemon Day. That has been announced already. However, generally when they've been introducing new Pokemon around Pokemon Day, they've introduced like 3 or 4 Pokemon at a time. So that means there are probably going to be 2 or 3 other Pokemon revealed on Pokemon Day to be coming to Pokemon Unite. Not sure what those Pokemon would be. They've been very good at spreading out the Pokemon included over all the generations. So really, it's up in the air which Pokemon they would include in Pokemon Unite next. But if you have some ideas, go ahead and leave a comment. Let us know what you think they're going to include in Pokemon Unite next. Pokemon Sleep has also been very successful after its launch, and they have just added their new location, the Lapis Lakeside. So we might get an update on how they're going to expand on that game in the future, if they're going to be adding new Pokemon or another new location. Just more information about this game is probably going to be coming. Pokemon Masters EX usually gets a shout out during these presentations. They just added Gladion with Magearna to the game. I'm assuming they're going to start announcing new characters that are going to get sync pairs I know Gladion is part of like it's like the 2.5 or 3.5 year celebration. So what's coming after that probably will be teased. Pokemon Cafe Remix is usually given a shout out as well during these games, and they reveal a new Pokemon coming to the cafe. They just added Meowth with a ball of yarn. Very clumsy, obviously. So there's a pretty solid chance there's going to be some sort of announcement dealing with Pokemon Cafe Remix as well. Detective Pikachu Returns is coming out in October. We do know that now, and we have learned a little bit about the new mechanics. And they kind of tease a little bit of the story, but it would be interesting to learn a little bit more about that. And it is something that they're really pushing, this Detective Pikachu series. So it should be interesting to see what they reveal about the game, if anything, in this next Presents trailer. The other big thing that a lot of people are really kind of clamoring for, especially since the 3DS online service is ending in April, is what's going to happen to the original Game Boy games as well as the Game Boy Advance games now that Game Boy and Game Boy Advance are available in Nintendo Switch Online. Some people think that they might just add them to these apps, but I, like a few other people on the internet, seem to think that the Pokemon Company is going to push for there being their own app, basically, in the Nintendo Switch Online service that would just have the Pokemon games in it. So you'd be getting Yellow, Red, Blue, Green, Gold, Silver, Crystal, and then you'd also get Sapphire, Ruby, Emerald, Fire Red, and Leaf Green all in this app. And then this app would potentially connect to Pokemon Home, much like how the old games on the 3DS connected to Pokemon Bank, bringing these Pokemon games back into the fold and still accessible with Pokemon Bank no longer being available. That would still leave the 3DS and DS games no longer compatible with the current Pokemon world, but they might rectify that in the future as well, using this app to add these old games into the fold and make them still connectable to home using this app that they would create. Possibility. Finally, there could be just a brand new Pokemon game, something completely new we've never seen before. We're not really sure what that would be, but many people, when the Indigo Disc DLC came out, saw the Synchro Machine as kind of a glimpse of what Pokemon games could be like in the future, where we control Pokemon ourselves. We're not just a human running around with Pokemon and their balls. We're running around as a Pokemon. We can do battle as a Pokemon. Like a free to explore open world game where you yourself are a Pokemon would be really cool. I think there's a lot of options and possibilities there. So that could be something really cool that the Pokemon Company has in store. They do often like to put elements of the games that will be coming out soon into the game before it, so that, like, as a test, basically, to see how it goes. This is a possibility that this is what this is as well. Finally, just want to touch on the Pokemon anime. Pokemon Horizons will have its first English episodes released on Netflix in April. The show's been airing in Japan for a while now. I think they're like up into like the 30 or 40 episodes. There's a couple different plot lines going in the show that are pretty interesting. I haven't been keeping up too much with the anime, but they've introduced some interesting elements from what I've seen, and it looks like it's actually going to be a pretty awesome show. The Pokemon Company also has been expanding their anime offerings, kind of letting other studios have their small little take on Pokemon. Pokemon Concierge is part of Netflix's kind of foray into Pokemon content. Paldean Winds was created by an anime studio. There's lots of different ways they're trying to expand how you view Pokemon when it comes to the anime and the animated offering. So hopefully we'll learn something new about what they're doing to continue that expansion and how that's going to affect Pokemon moving forward. So that's all that I have on my speculation for Pokemon Day. What do you think is going to get announced? Let me know in the comments. Stay tuned for our Pokemon Day coverage. We're going to have a video out that day, kind of going through everything that they reveal and talking about it. So the 27th, we'll be having a video out on all of that. Thanks for staying with Pokemon News, and we'll be back 5 days. See you soon, trainers.